I welcome you to the Module 2 of the course on Managing Employee Performance, and here we will discuss on the foundations of achieving great employee performance. In the previous module, we discussed the gaps in the current performance management process and systems. As we start, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to my channel now to continue accessing content that will help you or your company to grow, succeed, and find solutions to your business and career problems. Great performance begins with clarity. When I say clarity, I mean in the context of an understanding of your company's vision, mission, values, and strategic goals. If clarity is not gained at the very beginning, performance can easily go off track, even while your employees are thinking that they are doing a great job. For example, say a retail associate working at retail company A gets a new job at retail company B. Previously, he or she worked in a retail chain known for its poor customer service. Now, to provide clarity that the new employee may have to be trained on that the customer is always right. Without that training, the associate may feel or rather assume it's his or her number one job to save retailer B's money on the spot, or maybe argue with a shopper, and in this process of assumption, they may actually and adversely affect a valuable customer relationship. So to gain clarity, I would suggest that managers should ask their team members or employees two questions. Number one, what are the most important things you do every day? And number two, how do you know if you are doing them well without having to ask me, that is your manager, that or my having to tell you that you have to do this thing? Until you and your employees can answer these two questions with almost the same answers, the performance is guaranteed to suffer in your system. Let's examine now each in turn. In our workshops with CEOs, they often invite their HR teams, and that allows us to show them this particular challenge of clarity. We ask the CEO and the HR separately to take a piece of paper and then, out of view of each other, write down the three most important things they both think that the HR person does every day. Then we ask them to show their lists, and mostly they never match. As the saying goes, they were not even on the same page. Now afterwards they get to discuss what the most important things are and then gain the clarity that they had assumed was there but was not there. So where do you go from here? Let me use an example to illustrate. Let's say that we agree that the number one most important thing everyone's responsible for doing is to create a great client or great customer relationship. You will agree that this is any organization's priority in today's global economy. Now, armed with this kind of clarity, we can then ask, how do you know if you are helping to create a great client experience? All performance comes down to basically two benchmarks: quantity and quality. For example, take a call center employee that supports, say, the Amazon's online sales. They work in a culture where the customer is always right. They receive a given quantity of calls and perform at a certain quality level on those calls. The number of calls can be compared to a desired benchmark. The quality of calls can be based on real-time surveys sent out after the call. Some call centers have a screen also where these metrics generated in real time is directly in front of the call center employee. Now that's what is meant by clarity. Of course, many jobs are more complicated than a typical call center job. Clarifying job knowledge and the respective benchmarks requires a deeper conversation. For example, the marketer must get X number of prospect views or generate X number of leads or sales. From a qualitative experience, a survey may determine if the clients had an engaging experience and would be willing to refer others as a result. I hope you're getting the picture. Once you have clarity on what's important for you and your organization, you can then benchmark for the respective quantity and quality results. Because we still want to set and achieve certain benchmarks. That's one thing that hasn't changed with performance management. So try this simple exercise. Ask the people you manage what are the 3 most important things you do every day and go on from there. Performance management or improvement actually begins from the hiring process. The challenge that we all face is that just about every manager is running at full speed. So when it comes to hiring, their primary goal is let's just get over with it. One way to guard against this idea of hiring being a distraction is by developing a robust hiring process, one where managers are highly involved in the process from the beginning and there are no shortcuts. It all again begins with clarity on the manager's part about what they need from their new employee. Does the job description need to be reviewed first for its relevance and correctness? Do you have an understanding of how you will test for any skills or capabilities that are required for the position? Is there a personality assessment tool that can help you to see what degree this employee is a good cultural fit? You can't hire somebody simply because you want them to do the job so that you can go back and do yours. That's a half-hearted approach and it will often result in placing a round peg into a square hole. So take the time to make sure that you only hire somebody if they have the potential to be a great performer in that job. If hiring somebody in accounting, you can test their knowledge of general accounting principles and their ability to use any particular software that you are running in your organization. My point is, when you don't test and assess employees and don't conduct vigorous interviews with them, you will run into considerable variance in the quality of your hires. And that will lead to considerable variance in your employee performance. Okay, here's another way to get the interview process right. Conduct a group interview. The reason is that future co-workers often understand what it takes to succeed in the job better than their manager does. Besides, those employees won't be happy if you put a poor performer on their team without obtaining their inputs first. Here's another tip. Studies have shown that the best source for new employees is existing employees. They understand both the skill set required and the culture of your company. So make sure that you have a good referral program to make it work. So start at the beginning, work with your HR function so that you can develop an approach to hire the high potential performers right out of the gate. As a manager, it's not what you know that matters. It's the results that you and your team produces that matters. So the bottom line is that it's all about execution and producing the right results. So help your team do that and then you will have a great career as a manager. There are plenty of employees who manage to make themselves look busy, and then you wonder what they ever got done in the organization. Busyness does not correlate with effectiveness, and so don't succumb to the thought that it does anything. This is true for you as it is for your employees you manage. So ask yourself, are you managing results or merely trying to stay busy with the controlling tasks? Here's something else which is also important. Simplicity plays into creating a great culture of execution. If you make a system or process that's too complicated, it's impossible to manage. Your goal is to make sure that any performance approach that you take focuses on execution and not just how busy your people are. About 50 years ago, Dr. Edwards Deming said that performance evaluations actually ruin performance. He also said that poor performance was a managerial problem. So during our client engagements, we often ask executives to tell us how their performance evaluation process helps them improve performance. And most of them say that the process itself does not. They admit that what's improving performance is the fact that the manager and the employee have finally discussed the definition and meaning of performance. Truth does not emerge from merely an opinion. It emerges through a dialogue. Remember, control is now dead as a management approach. And if you can't manage through control, then you must manage through dialogue and agreement. When engaging in a dialogue, the managers and employees learn to speak for themselves. The mutual intention is to improve the system so that it can support employees to make suggestions for improvements and generate better results in the process. One last thing. Remember that frequent dialogue creates a safe place for open communication. It removes the fear from performance improvement because it's a discussion and not a review. In the next module, we will discuss some of the global best practices for improving performance. Hope you found this video useful. So please give me a like on this video and subscribe to my channel to continue accessing content that will help you to grow, succeed, and find solutions to your business or career issues. Thanks for watching and wait for the module 3 on this particular subject.